Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to my autobiography, The Perils of an Interesting Life. This is episode 6, Music and Girls. So, in a previous chapter, I talked about the spring talent competition at the elementary school that I went to. And so, after winning that, and after the previous choir show that we went and did, and I did so well in, that is also part of this series, the old Marine decided it was time to unveil my talent to the people in the valley, because we'd been living up in the Oregon mountains, and only Eastern Oregon people had heard me, and the people in the valley, which were the power brokers in the denomination that my dad was a preacher in, they would not have a clue as to what was coming. So he quietly enrolled me into the state competition, teen talent competition. And even though I was a preteen, there was a junior section. And so he enrolled me in the junior talent competition for the state. You know, when I was a little kid, I wasn't much into church. I was forced to go. Church was a chore. Playing the piano at church was a little better than vacuuming the church for me. And I had not yet learned to appreciate performing in front of an audience and the energy that you get from them. I was just beginning to get a taste of that. You know, for musicians, that feedback, that feeling that you get when you're turning a crowd on from the stage is it's addictive. It's like a drug. It's a powerful force. And it's the thing that gets people, when you're old like me, out of bed and up on stage again, you know, because you just want to do it one more time, just one more time. And but I had not yet experienced that. So for me, the whole thing was a chore. And one thing about this talent competition is that there were many competitors, and there was a big age group from 8 years old to 17 years old. And so it was a full day event. I don't remember how many hours it took. But if your group wasn't performing, most people were out in the back playing volleyball. They had some hot dogs out there, and it was just kind of this all-day party going on outside of the church, even though there was this competition going on inside the church. And so we arrived there, and I immediately hit the party out back. And I managed to get grass stains on my pants, and I managed to get a stain on my shirt, and I was sweaty, and my hair was all messed up, and my mama was just having to do double time just trying to keep me presentable. And it was coming time for the junior competition, and in the piano department of the junior competition, there was only 2 competitors. So I was only competing against one other person. It was kind of a letdown. I was ready to, I don't know, be a part of it. I wanted to hear other people do their thing. I was like, okay, so there's only one of us. And so the director called us into a little room, and me and my father and the little girl who was also playing piano and her father were in this room discussing who would go first. And so her father, the little girl's father, asked my dad, so how long has he been playing? And we both kind of looked at each other and went, I guess about 9 months. I've been playing the piano about 9 months. When I said that, he openly, the parent openly laughed. He openly, okay. Well, my daughter is, she's been in piano lessons since she was 6. So she's a 5th year piano student. And so the director says, well, who'd like to go first? And, the cocky stage dad spoke up first. Well, I think that it would probably be best if he went first, since we wouldn't want him to get, intimidated and all nervous after hearing her play. I mean, she is an advanced piano student, and he's only been playing for 9 months. He was already polishing the girl's trophy. He's like, oh, 9 months? We got this beat with hard work and spit, He had a place picked out on the mantle. He was already drawing up the trophy case for his daughter. As soon as he heard 9 months, for him, it was over. He was overlooking a little thing called talent. And it was a little unfair to say that me, a multi-instrumental musician who'd been playing since I was 5, had only been playing for 9 months. I just only been playing that instrument for 9 months. So, it come time to play, and here I am. I'm a mess by now. I got barbecue stain on my shirt, hair's all sticking up. I remember my mom doing the spit on the hanky, get the dirt off my face thing before we go on to play. And I go up first. So I prepared before this with a little medley that I was messing around with, which was when the Saints go marching in, and I'll Fly Away, and a really fast version of Just a Closer Walk with Thee, all put together into a big ragtime medley. We clocked in at like 3.5 or 4 minutes. And it was pretty action-packed because I'm switching songs back and forth. And I mean, I was kind of flashy. I guess maybe I should reiterate how good I was. And you've heard me play now, and I've talked about how I'm not a whole lot better now than I was when I was 11. I just got the instrument immediately. And there was a point where I stood up and kicked the piano stool over just like Jerry Lee. I would do that when people would start clapping and getting really excited when I would play, which would become a thing that would happen regularly. And so anyway, I'm playing, and everyone is shocked. I kind of look out there, and I just see jaws dropped open. And there's a look on the little girl's dad's face. We'll call him the stage dad's face, on the stage dad's face. I can't even express it to you. It's one of shock, disappointment, and he's replaying every cocky word he said to my dad. And the old Marine's loving it. I look over there, and he's just... Because that really made him mad when that guy, said, well, my daughter, rah, rah, rah. I could feel the old Marine in that moment so angry at this guy. He was like, man, he let him walk into that trap. The old Marine knew I was going to smoke this girl, and he just let this stage dad walk right into it. So, but at this point, we still don't know, how good this other girl is. But, I sit down to play, and all these jaws drop open, and I'm not going along no time before I hear them clapping. I always hated it when they clapped, because they were never really perfectly on time, and it was just like, if you're going to clap along, be good at it. I was a weird little kid. I was serious about music, but not serious about performing it, just serious about the music itself, So I'm whipping this out. They're all clapping. I do that thing where I can feel them get excited, and I stand up at the end, and I kick the piano stool back, and I'm doing my thing, right? And when it's over, I just turn around and stare at him like Jerry Lee Lewis. I watched too many Jerry Lee Lewis videos. That was one of the few things that my dad let me watch. If I could find any footage on Jerry Lee or Jimmy or any of those people, he let me watch them. But anyway, I got scolded for every time I kicked the piano stool over, I got scolded for it, because that was not acceptable, but I couldn't help it. It was time to stand. When you stand up and you're playing, the piano stool just naturally goes back. You don't really have to kick it. All you gotta do is just stand up. It falls over backwards. But anyway, so when I did that, I heard the crowd erupt into applause. And when I finished, I just turned around and looked at them, and they're just all on their feet. They're just all on their feet. So I run back over and sit down next to my mom. And I'm like, can I go outside? Can I go outside? Can I go outside? She's like, stop. So they announced the little girl to come up. And I feel so bad for her, because she looked so pretty. She had blonde hair done in curls like that girl from Little House on the Prairie. And she had this pretty little white dress with pink lace highlights on it, and white stockings and little white patent leather shoes. And she was just so certain she was coming there to really show all of her hard work. And instantly I can feel the emotion from the backside of her as she stands up, and I feel sorry for her. I feel bad for her. I feel like maybe I wished I hadn't played so well. And because I can tell she's intimidated. She's crushed by this. And I think that she was there when they said I'd only been playing for 9 months. She'd been playing for 6 years, and she never had that kind of reaction out of people. I've been playing for 9 months. Poor thing. She felt this big. So she walks slowly to the piano, and she sits down, and she puts her music up on the piano. And I can hear her dad whispering something to her. He's stage coaching her from the side, but she's not hearing it. And she stares at the music, and she stares at her hands. And then she just starts crying. She just starts crying, and she grabs her music, and she runs off the stage. So I won by default. It was sad. But, this is one of those things where talent and hard work together can make you really, really good. But it doesn't matter how much how much hard work you produce. If you don't have talent, you just can't compete with somebody that does. And I heard after that she stopped taking piano lessons, refused to go to piano, and never touched the piano again. I didn't mean to crush her, but her dad sure got a lesson in pride for certain. And my life from then on out would be very hazy. I'm telling some of these stories all in this one timeline because what happens next in my very interesting life is so chaotic and so mind-numbing and painful and so earth-shattering that it causes me to kind of lose track. It's the only place in my life where the details are fuzzy. Because after leaving LeGrand, you know, I've talked about this before, the old man had a heart attack, my mom had a cancer scare, then cancer for real. She had part of her foot amputated, all her hair fell out. We were moving from place to place, staying with family, and then having our own place for a while and going back while this treatment went on. And I kind of surfaced next in the 8th grade. A lot happened in those years, but I can tell you what happened in those years between the age of 11 and the age of 14 is that 3-year period, that cancer phase in our lives where my mom was fighting for her life. I learned to play every instrument I could get my hand on. That's why it's really fuzzy, because I think I spent 99% of my waking time with an instrument in my hand, just deciphering the instrument. This is why I can play 11 instruments, because I learned all but 1 or 2, all but 3. So I learned 8 instruments in those 3 years. Well, I only knew 3, so I guess I learned 5 new instruments. I couldn't even sit and count them out for you. From hammer dulcimer and mountain dulcimer, harmonica and mandolin and banjo and piano, and you know, native chording flute. I mean, if it made music, I picked it up and learned it. And sometimes I could learn an instrument in a day. I learned to play the steel guitar in 1 day. By the 3rd day, I was whipping it. And this is 6-string steel, and I've yet to really have some personal alone time with a pedal steel. But when I have, I was making music with it pretty quick. I've only had a couple hours on a pedal steel guitar. But during that period, the thing that was cohesive was music. That was the only stability in my life. I poured myself into my music. And I emerged on the other side at 14 years old, 15 years old as a serious musical prowess. My musical prowess at 15 was ridiculous. And I guess I was about 13 or 14 when I went back out to Eastern Oregon to play play at a church that my dad had friends at. And a man was there who knew we were going to be there because his brother-in-law ran that church. He was the pastor of that church. This man, his last name was Carter. And if you know anything about the country music business, you know that the Carter family is a big part of the country music business. Now, this man wasn't just the brother-in-law of the pastor of that church. He was also my dad's second or third cousin. So he came there to that church to see my dad. He came there all the way from Nashville, Tennessee to see my dad. Now, my dad had no idea. We were just going there to involve ourselves in this little revival meeting and play some music. And so we did. We went and we did our thing. And at the end of the service, after the service, our second cousin, a member of the famous Carter family, Aaron Carter, I believe this is the same man, this is John Carter, the same man that discovered Aaron Carter, his own cousin, nephew, I don't know. I'm related to half of Nashville through the Carter family. That I have cousins I'm related to Don Williams. I'm related to June Carter Cash. I'm related to the Whites and the Carters on that side of my dad's side of the family. So the guy came to my father at the end of the service and went, "Look, I came out here for a very specific reason. Your son's talent has gotten, through the grapevine and made it all the way to me in Nashville. And I had heard really how good he is and how much talent he's got. And I had to come out and see it for myself. And I agree that, that he does have a lot of talent. And I'm here to make you an offer." And my dad's like, "Okay, what do you want to do, John?" And so he says, "I'm willing to take your kid to Nashville and make a star out of him. We could put him to work right now. I could probably guarantee you that you would be getting at least $1,000. John said, I'll guarantee you personally $1,000 a month back in your home bank account, whether he's working or not. If he starts to make more than that and I've recouped my money, then you're going to get a raise in that. And it could be thousands of dollars a month in income. You just got to let me have him. You can't do it out here in the sticks. You can't do it out here in the Eastern Oregon desert. There's just not any way. You're going to have to get this kid where the business is. You can't bring the business to him. Nowadays you can with the internet and all of the technology, but back then you had to go where the action was. And my dad was like, well, no way I'm giving you my 14-year-old son. There's just no way I'm sending him off to Nashville. Plus, I was a cash cow for the old man at this point. His reputation was rising, and we were making quite a bit of, not money, but brownie points, I don't know. He was becoming well known because of my talent and the music that he and I made together. The old Marine was a pretty good musician. It didn't come out of the clear blue sky. My mama, to this day, is a fine singer. She wasn't going deaf. But my mom back in the day was an amazing singer and quite a looker. My mom was really attractive. My sisters are pretty. I don't know what happened to me. I guess I fell out of the ugly tree and hit every limb on the way down. But the rest of my family's pretty dang attractive. And that presented a problem because my dad was like, I'm not sending my boy out there to Nashville on his own. And John said, well, send your wife out. Send, I won't say my mother's name, but, send your wife out. Send his mama out. She can take care of him because we'll pay for all her expenses. You might get a little less money back, but then, you don't have to worry about taking care of either one of them. We'll take care of both of them. Boy, I could feel the hair on the back of my old man's neck stand up. He got mad. I mean, when the old Marine would get angry, you couldn't tell it unless you knew him. But if you knew him, you could feel it. I could feel that heat coming off of him because John Carter had always kind of had a thing for my mama. That he made a similar offer that he wanted to promote my mother, some 15 years before that. At the time of my birth or earlier, he already wanted to promote my mother as a star and leave my dad behind pastoring churches. So this was just more insult of the same from this lecherous John who was my dad thought was making a pass at my mother and using me as an excuse to do it. I can't remember exactly what was said, but it was along the lines of not just no, but hell no. But my teen years until I went wild, which is going to be the next episode, Sage Goes Wild. But until I went wild, my life was very much church and music and girls. Through all of this, I had one little girlfriend after another. And typically, circumstances divided us. I was one of these boys that would go and have a different girlfriend at each church we went to. I guess that was the beginning of my girlfriend in every town routine that I would later perfect. But at any rate, music and girls dominated this time. And I think a lot of people think, well, Sage, your spirituality, isn't that what saved you through your mom's crisis and your family health crisis? And I would say yes, but through music. Learning all of those instruments, spending so much time engrossed in the instrument was an insulation for me against the pain and the struggle that my family was undergoing. But at the same time, it was also a spiritual renewing for me. God was feeding me with this music, and it was making me better, and it helped me cope with what was going on. And I would later go on to realize that music was defining me as a human, that I was soon to be seen as nothing but a musician, and I would struggle later on in my life to be accepted for something more than just a talented person. A lot of my life, people treated me like a trained monkey. They treated me like a piece of livestock, a wind-up toy. Wind him up and put him up on the stage. So thanks for listening to my ramblings of my interesting life. I promise it's about to get very, very interesting because I will tell the story of how I went from being a preacher's boy, walking the straight and narrow, never stepping one toe across the sin line. I wouldn't dare to. And I went from that to being the Rogue Valley's premier pot dealer in less than a year. So that's next week, or next time on Perils of an Interesting Life. You'll hear how I went from church piano player to a recognized drug dealer in a record short time. All right, so see you next time on the Perils of an Interesting Life.